Hey everyone, and welcome to this new video that we are going to do. So in this time we want to improve the order creation process in the first step that we have. And if you recall from the last video, or I can just show it here once again, we have this idea, or I had this idea to actually make this customer selection a little bit more user friendly. So we would go here and say like enter some text, and then it would provide us some results out of that. And if we select that, then we have such a detailed screen here, or like a detailed information about the customer. So at least the first part we can tackle in this video. So I created a GitHub issue for it called search for customers during order creation. So the description would go like, as a rental business employee, I want to search for customer directly in the order creation screen so that I can find the customer faster. So for that, it makes sense to actually look into what options do we have in Jmix. And here is this UI sampler application that you can find under demo.jmix.io/sampler. And if you search for entity here, you will find a couple of options that you have. So the first one is actually the one that we currently have in place, which is just where you can basically just select here, then look up a particular customer, and then once you select it, you basically cannot really change it here directly in the screen. So this is what we currently have. And then there's another option which is called Entity Combo Box, which allows you to, on the one side, also do like what we have seen before, but secondly also have a drop down here, and then just listing all the entries, and then additionally you can also filter by already typing. This would be one option, and the other option that we have is this thing called data suggestion or entity suggestion field. And I think this is what we are going to do, and this is in particular a little bit better for our use case, because it will only search for the customers in the database once we actually start typing something. So it will not load all the customers already in the screen. And the use case for typing is that you already know the name. So this means that normally you do not need all the customers in the screen, or in memory. And so I think this is what we can go for. And here we already have such an example that we can basically leverage. So if we look at the implementation for this one here, then we can see, so here we have a thing called entity suggestion field, and we basically connect it to our data container. In this case, it's actually the same example as what we have at hand. So this means the data container will be the order data container, and then we just pass in the property where the entity should actually be stored in. And as part of this entity suggestion field, there is also a query subtag here, which actually defines on how the data is fetched from the database. So with that, I think we can go ahead and take a look at our application. So I will just restart the app so that we already have it running. And yeah, so if we go back to our idea, so it was like somewhere at the bottom we have a group box here potentially, and then somewhere inside we actually have our input field. So this means for now I think we can just put it here directly into this scroll box, and for example make a group box. So this would be the customer group box, and the caption would be customer. I will for now just go ahead and create that here manually. We could also reference the attribute of the entity, but I think for now this should be enough. We could give it an icon. So for example, we could search for, I don't know, a user or something. So here in the UI or in the IntelliJ, you already see which item it will actually use. So I think this should be fine for now. and then we can make it width 100%. And inside this group box, we will now create such an entity suggestion field. And this will be our customer field. And I think with that, we can already get rid of the original one. So yeah, there are a couple of options that we can pass in here. The input prompt would be the information that is typed, that is presented when nothing is already typed. So we could say search for customers or for customer. And at this lower part here, we have the information about our query. So first of all, we have to define the entity class. In this case, it will be our path and then like the customer entity. And here we also have to use our prefix. Yeah, and with that, actually, it should already be referencing the right customer entity. And now it actually, already indicates that we do not have the attribute name. So let's switch it to first name. And yeah, here it's basically filtering for the first name, and compares that to the search string. And what we can also do is, just put this basically as a second query definition, and just also ask for the last name. So with that in place, I think we can go ahead and take a look at our running application. So if we now create an order, we have our our group box here, first of all, and then we have the title for the group box, and then additionally here an icon. And if I now, it's already indicated as required since it is bound to the customer attribute, which is actually marked as not null. And if we go here, then we can, find our regular, lookup screen that we already have had before. But if I now search for LO, for example, and then it will, present me all the results. And if I search for the first name that is unique, then, we will have that as well. So if we now go ahead and store this information, then as you can see here, we have now, the right information in place, and the right customer is selected and stored. So here there's another thing which is rendered by default, which is an open the edit screen for the related entity. So basically for Mr. Loriot here, I would actually then go ahead and see the details. So this is possible to either, so first of all, it's possible to change that via these actions XML attributes here. So by default, there are two, or this is what we have copied from the example, the lookup information and the open one. For now, I think we can leave that, but what I wanted to show you is that perhaps it would be better if we make that visible as a like a dialog, and not as a new screen, in order to not lose the focus from the order here. So the way we can do that is that it is possible to pass in particular particular attributes or properties into a particular action. This depends a little bit on the type of action that we have here at hand. But what they all have in common is that you can define here properties and just a list of properties as a key value pair. And so if we look at this one, it basically, what it does is it tries to set these values that we give. So for example, I would go ahead here and say open mode, and then say dialog or dialog, and this way this will actually behave like we want to. So let's just first check that if it actually behaves that way. So if we now go here again and click, then we can see it is actually opened as a dialog. And the way how this works, so if you're not aware which attributes are available, what you can do is we can search for this open action. So if you could just search for all classes and then search for open action, I think it is. Yeah, so probably it is this one here. And here you can see that this is the implementation of this open action ID. And if action type is here actually entity open, so this should actually be fine. And here it has a couple of getters and setters. So this means, by that we can already find out, what is possible to pass in. As you can see here, there are annotations for the studio properties item. So I would assume that if we switch the view here and select this, if we open up this component inspector, and perhaps we are actually able to find that as well. Yeah, I'm not so sure where it actually is located because I don't use that very often, but I think there should be some possibility to visually have a representation of those attributes as well. Okay, and with that, we now have achieved our first goal to actually make this customer search visible, or directly searchable in the order editor. And with that, I would actually close this video, and in the second part, we will then just go ahead and think about how to write a test case for that. All right. Yeah, thanks for watching, and then see you next time.